I don't want to be repetitive about this particular story because we did touch upon experience in Rome and meeting Leonard Bernstein and auditioning and actually coming to the United States to Tanglewood and joining Boston Symphony. So that particular time frame is already covered.
Right.
But perhaps I could tell you what happened prior to April of 1973. I don't quite know when to start, but so I will start with how I first heard about people leaving Soviet Union and immigrating to Israel. I heard it from my brother. My brother, youngest brother Miron, who lives now in Reston, Virginia, befriended another young cellist who was also a member of the cello class of Rostropovich in Moscow Conservatory. And her name was Alla Levinson. She and Miron became friends and then started dating, and of course she decided to take my brother by the hand and introduce him to her parents, which is a normal thing to do for youngsters, and I hope you all hear me. When my brother appeared in that household, he realized that Alla's father was a very unusual person because he was an actor, comedian in Yiddish, working in a Moscow Jewish theater as a comedian. The problem with that job was that it was closed by Joseph Stalin. And as we all know, Joseph Stalin passed away in 1953. So 20 years later, this man was still unemployed and feeling down, sad, depressive. And the only thing he found to continue his interest in life was to study Hebrew, to listen to shortwave radio, and he was listening to stations like Voice of Liberty, Voice of America, and Voice of Israel on the short waves. And at the time when my brother met him, he was preoccupied with the idea of going back to historical fatherland, which was Palestine, Israel. So my brother came after his wing very quickly and got excited about this idea of finding how to do that, how to find invitations to leave Soviet Union and immigrate to Israel. And he was very successful about that, because one day he came to me with this announcement: Victor, I have news for you. Alla and I and our little girl Miriam, who was just born, she was a toddler, we are immigrating, we're going to Israel. And I did not wait long to tell him that I wish you happiness, success, and wonderful life in Israel. But don't forget to send me invitation to join you, because you know what's happening with my job in Moscow. If I have brother in Israel, I will be kicked out on the street. Why? Because Soviet Union and Israel did not have diplomatic relationship. They were adversaries. Our friends in the Middle East was Egypt. Okay? So we were with Egypt, we were building a huge amount of stuff in Egypt. We were sending advisors to Egypt, even music advisors, to build a conservatory and opera house and things like that. So we were completely friends and allies with enemies of Israel. All right. Which makes immigration of person to Israel not only politically incorrect, but it's like immigrating to the camp of enemies of Soviet government. Therefore, I would not be able to be on my job. There was another reason why I would have to be kicked out. That reason was the stature of the Moscow Philharmonic Orchestra in Moscow. We were one of the institutions which were able to give concerts in a Western world. Okay, we were traveling to the Western World Orchestra, which meant to us that each of us was X-rayed by KGB. Every personal biography, resume, all the relatives here and there, all of us had to be picture-perfect Soviet citizens. And certainly, if we were to be like that, we could not have any relatives abroad, especially in Israel or United States. Therefore, if I would be to be on the list of a traveling orchestra like Moscow Philharmonic was, I would be replaced immediately for that particular trip. And that was always a hard thing for our music director, not knowing who will have to be replaced at the last moment. And it's not like it's a person who would come for the duration of rehearsal process, preparing the whole music for the trip. No, it happened before my eyes. We were all congregated on the Mayakovsky Square, where the Moscow Philharmonic is, and we were to board 3 buses to go to the airport. And buses were supposed to leave, say at 11 o'clock in the morning. So we were sitting on a bus and looking at our colleagues coming out of the subway and approaching the bus and boarding the bus. And suddenly one of them was trying to board the bus, but the orchestra manager started to talk to him, whisper something in his ear, and in front of all of us, he simply turned around and went back to subway and back home, because he was told, "You're not coming on tour with us."